Hello and a very warm welcome to another edition of Talking Germany, the show where we do just that. My guest today is an artist whose work is fast, cheap and fascinating. So here he is, the prolific and sometimes very provocative Jim Avignon. Thank you for joining us on Talking Germany today. Great pleasure to have you here. Now, Jim Avignon has made a name for himself as an artist, designer and musician who's nearly always on the move, turning out paintings, cartoons and much more besides, often at a breakneck speed. Still, he is, without a doubt, a thoughtful, so you might even say philosophical fellow, and I'm sure he's going to be a great guest on the show. There you are, Jim. I've just called you a thoughtful and philosophical fellow.
Thanks for that introduction. I'm impressed.
It's pretty good stuff, yeah? But now I'm going to ask you to explain your theory of art to me.
My theory of art in general?
Yep.
Well, personally, I think art is communication without words, even if some artists are using words. But personally, art lets me go to places and speak about my thoughts, my ideas to people who even don't speak my language, and makes them understand what I'm about. Mm-hmm. I think, this is like my very personal view on it. In general, art is, next to music and literature, a way to express your thoughts, your ideas, your concepts about life, about everything. And nowadays, art is, terrifying big market that sometimes throws a big shadow on the art itself. But I think when people speak about art nowadays, they speak about the market or think about the market.
Yeah. Unfortunately, all too often, really. Yeah. Let's talk about your role in the art world. We'll talk about the market in just a second, yeah. But your role, I was reading one item about you, and it described you, and it was interesting. It described you as a respected cult figure. And I thought, what's going on here? You can't be respected and cult at the same time, or can you?
Respected meaning, I guess, I don't know who said that even I'm around like for almost 25 years.
True.
There's not an official way of reading my work, but new generations of young people find out about it and kind of like it and give me respect for what I'm doing or what I have done. Mm-hmm. And I think I have done a couple of things that are not very typical for like what you're going to do when you want to make a career. So very different from the rest of the scene, and therefore I'm still like I'm not in a museum. I'm not a famous head in art history, but kind of like every once in a while people find out about me and think, well, this is really special, this is different. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, maybe that makes me a respected cult figure, I don't know.
It sounds pretty good, and I think you've convinced me, actually, that you really are a respected cult figure. Let's just one more aspect I want to talk about before we get a more general introduction to you and get some pictures. You create art at an incredible speed sometimes.
Yeah.
Why?
I like it.
Good answer.
It's like when we speak about creating art, it's the physical aspect of drawing, of painting, it's sometimes like almost like doing kind of sport. On the other hand, it's if you do a really big painting in a very high speed, it's almost like meditation. It's a simple cliche. You get one with the brush. It goes by itself. Yeah. But on the other hand, like there's long hours I sit thinking about what I could do, or like just not being creative, but like writing down stuff, watching, getting input. Like let's say 90% is getting input and watching what's going on, and 10% is like giving output at a very high speed.
Wonderful. Okay. First impressions there from the respected cult artist Jim Avignon. He's laughing now. Here's more.
Yeah. I know.
Jim Avignon is headed for a Berlin art gallery to set up his new show.
Wait, the door's shut. Oh, this is number 11. I want number 9.
He's got all the pictures rolled up in his shoulder bag.
Is it 9 or 12?
12.
He paints his works in acrylic on paper or cardboard. Half of them are still unfinished, but that doesn't faze him. These two both need a bit more work. That's Jim Avignon's style. So is the fact that most of his works are priced at under €100. After 6 years in New York, he's back in Berlin with his daughter and partner. Galleries from Moscow to Tokyo have shown his pictures. Berlin was the springboard of his career. In one early work in 1990, he immortalised himself on the Berlin Wall. Today, the East Side Gallery is a tourist magnet. And he still prefers to exhibit where he feels understood and appreciated. In small galleries, preferably accompanied by a great party. And today he's our guest on Talking Germany. A warm welcome, Jim Avignon.
The respected cult artist and mysterious fellow, because there's a sort of a mysterious aura around you, yeah? When I was doing my research for the show... Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I read that you were born in Munich, Stockholm or Tokyo.
Well, I kind of like it when biographical facts get a bit confused. As an artist person, it's no point of interest if I'm born here or there, because I'm not born Jim Avignon. This is an artist name I took when I was 20. Mm-hmm. So I kind of even like it to confuse people. I kind of find it sad that nowadays in the internet you can find every information you need. So I'm happy to spread some wrong information to confuse it a little bit.
Okay, tell me some right. Or I mean, if you were or weren't born in Tokyo, Stockholm, or Munich, what I did read was that you grew up in the Black Forest.
I had some years in the Black Forest.
Oh yeah,
it's true.
Did you have? And here we can be sort of unspecific but very specific. Did you have a playful childhood?
It was an okay childhood. I grew up in a small village.
Yeah.
I had a bike. I was driving in the countryside and doing drawings of trees. I don't think I was a difficult child, but my parents put me to school when I was 5, and I was always the smallest and the youngest in my class. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling like I never had a proper childhood because I always had a minority complex from that. And I kind of grew up when I left school and when I was 20. Yeah. I never, before I was 20, I never went to bars or went to clubs or considered of having a band or doing something. Mm-hmm. When I finished school, I had no idea what to do. I still went to school for half a year to meet the younger classes because I had no idea what next. Yeah, nobody told me.
But you had already been cycling around on your bike doing little sketches of trees. So
but out of some kind of romantic. I was a big fantasy fan at that time. Oh, yeah. So Lord of the Rings but kind of weird looking trees with fog and stuff. So I did that all. Maybe I would still do it if.
But you are a very, very, I'm going to say this, a very accomplished artist. I think the stuff you do is of a really, really high standard, and it's all self-taught, all autodidactic. How did that happen?
Well, when I was at the age of thinking to go to an art school, near the town where I grew up, there was an academy that was run by famous artist Lüpertz. And there was a rumor that you could only join his academy if you either are a girl or you could play football. I wasn't a girl and I couldn't play football, and I kind of didn't like the fact that I have to present my drawings to get chosen or not. Also, during my last years of school, I had a teacher that worked very hard to let me give up all that fantasy stuff. He tried to teach me modern art, like Picasso, all that stuff. Yeah. I hated it. Yeah. So I kind of had a sense of not wanting somebody to tell me what I should do. I had a feeling I should everybody who starts a band, they just take their guitar and play their songs. They don't go to music school for 10 years before they do a show or do a record. And that's what I wanted to do with art.
Yeah. And when you're talking about your ideas, very often what you're doing, you're in some setting. You might be on stage or in some public setting. And you're going to turn out maybe one drawing huge thing or something smaller or maybe 100 little items, yeah? Where do the ideas come from in that kind of situation?
Well, they are around. You just have to pick them. Like, usually the more chaos around me, the better I work. Like, yeah. I'm not one of those artists who has to go to the studio and needs total silence around. Like, I'm really good in a club with like everything happening around me, and like I take little glimpses of what's happening here, that face there, somebody's saying something, and I make a big mix in my head out of that, and somehow ideas come out. Not all are brilliant, but some kind of work. Yeah.
Well, good for you, because I mean, if somebody said to me, there's a guy who's going to do 100 drawings in an hour or in a number of hours, I would say, I know what he's going to do. He's going to do the same kind of stuff that he always does, and you don't.
Well, like, I don't like to get bored, and I would get bored if I'm doing the same drawing in slightly variations 100 times.
But you've also got the imagination to do that.
Well,
good for you.
I like the pressure. Like, I like to get surprised by myself. I like to see what's coming out of the brush, yeah.
Great stuff. You've mentioned clubs already, and we've seen already that music plays a central role in Jim's life and Jim's work. Let's just check out what he gets up to there.
Message on the phone. It cannot be deleted. You hear it all the time. It tells you to remain in line. You know there ain't no way out of this middle class hell. You know there ain't no way out of this middle class hell.
The name of the band, Neo and Jin. You were just explaining that in some ways you wish you hadn't called the band that, but that's what you called, yeah. That song is about middle class hell.
Yeah.
Is that something you know a lot about?
Well, I think I grew up in a typical middle class situation, and it's something like you can never get rid of for the rest of your life. It's somehow there. I've been meeting a lot of people who come out of different kind of circumstances, and I can just spot the people who had the same kind of childhood and have the same kind of background than me. It's kind of like ways of thinking things, judging things, interpreting things. It just you want to let it all go and be a different person, but it's just there. You never get out of the shadow of it, I think.
Jim, that sounds dark.
I'm a dark person.
I don't know how many CDs you've made, yeah? And you haven't just made CDs. I think there must be at least 10 or a dozen or something like that. One of them, I think I counted right, has got 33 songs on it, yeah? So the question is, I mean, if you're turning out, cartoons and paintings very quickly, how much time do you need for what are effectively sort of these do-it-yourself songs?
Let's say like this, if you have a good idea and you have like just the right sense for the right sounds and beats, a good song can be made in 10 minutes. On the other hand, sometimes you work for a month on a thing and it always sounds like a construction and never really works. So I think a perfect song can be written in one night. And I think most of the perfect songs that are there in pop history had been written very fast. Like a good melody, it's just something that's there. It's like you cannot invent it or like... You can work on it for half of your life and it doesn't get better.
Yeah. Am I missing the point or something, or have I hit on a point that there seems to be an awful lot of dogs around?
There's also a lot of cats around. Like,
yeah, it's true. There are some cats.
I have to admit that's one thing that like an aspect of my imaginary world is like people think it's very childlike, and it's true. A lot of like animal characters appear, But I kind of like, sometimes I put like 5 CD covers next to, and they all have like cartoon animals on it. And I think that's too much. Like, it has to change. Like, I don't know. I like them. And sometimes it's easier to tell things if it's not human beings, but like cartoon characters. And I grew up with Snoopy, which I liked a lot. So, of course, there's a dog sometimes appearing.
I'll admit it on air. I'm a Snoopy fan too.
I'm a big Snoopy fan, yeah.
2 Snoopy fans. OK. If you ask me, one of the most interesting things that Jim has recently got up to was when he was invited by Germany's cultural organisation, the Goethe Institute, to go on tour as a street artist meeting other street artists. The destination was the Caribbean and Central America. Now, here's a look at what happened in Guatemala City.
This wall in the centre of Guatemala City is about to be transformed. 13 artists will turn it into an open-air gallery in just 3 days' time.
You have to keep in mind that this is only the small thing that you do, and there's a big wall waiting for you around the corner. You know that?
Okay, see.
Yeah.
For the past 5 weeks, Jim Avignon has been touring Central America, 7 countries in all. It's part of a street art project initiated by the Goethe Institute. Jim is managing the project, giving the artists tips and keeping an overview. S. Bird applied to join the project via Facebook months ago. S. Bird is happy to be able to spray paint his art legally in the centre of the city. Graffiti doesn't have a good reputation in Guatemala.
Many people think that what we do is bad, as if we were members of a gang. But we don't want to harm anybody. We want to decorate the city, to bring joy and colour.
Guatemala has been through a lengthy civil war. Violence and poverty are endemic. This work by Lily Acevedo is a tribute to a girl named Ariani. She was shot and killed on the street. Her murderer was acquitted. Street art can be provocative or just decorative. Some of the works have a political message. Many people passing by stop to take a look.
It's nice to look at if they paint something pretty, but it's ugly if it's just a scribble. It's fun watching and learning. You can ask them what they're doing and why.
The project has drawn a lot of young street artists.
If we didn't have street art, nobody would get to see any art here in Guatemala. Maybe the works of great or famous artists, but certainly not art by people who are talented but unknown.
The wall is finished, and the artists have brought some colour to a troubled country.
We were just talking music, Jim and I there, but we're going to go back to that report, yeah? It's a great project, yeah, without a doubt, and I'd like to ask you what you learnt from it.
I learned a couple of things. First of all, I learned I was too naive in thinking if I know one of these countries, the other ones would be similar to it.
Interesting
Each of those countries is a cosmos of its own, very own mentality, food, climate, everything. Like, and it tells me like people should travel more and see. Like, if people would travel more, there would be less problems in the world. I think. Like, just knowing that the world is so different. On the other hand, everybody has the same problems everywhere, and they kind of deal with it. So yeah, that was like for me the one big thing. Also learning how the internet changed the world. Like everywhere I went, people knew about what's going on everywhere in street art terms. Like if we would have done that 10 years ago, probably in some of the countries, people would have had no idea about the rest of the world. And now everybody is on the same kind of level of knowledge about what's going on.
Mm-hmm. You were at least in that sequence of the project there in Guatemala City, you were the supervisor. You were in the supervisor role.
I was kind of supervisor everywhere. The project was together with another friend from Berlin who's now living in Brazil. We visited the countries, met from 10 to 15 artists, local artists, have one-day workshop where we kind of discuss what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. And then I paint together with the other artists, but more kind of helping them with problems, taking care that the whole thing looks good, mm-hmm. and it's not 10 separate works next to each other. Yeah. And then, if there's time, I do another piece of my own, yeah. Okay.
And you are sort of, a lot of what you do is sort of underground, countercultural sort of stuff. But there, in this project, you were there representing sort of German culture with a big C, the Goethe Institute. You were there as a German. How did that feel?
Well, it's not the first time I've been traveling with the Goethe Institute, so I kind of knew that feeling before. Of course, it's different from when you go by yourself. And I did also projects by myself. But in these countries, you might risk your life if you do street art in the night illegally. So everybody was very excited that now there's a chance to work in the daytime. The paint is paid. There's no risk. The walls are in a popular corner of the city. So I kind of understood that it all made sense. And this, sometimes if you travel with Goethe, you get in the context of doing very elitist things for very small crowd of people. But this thing was in the middle of the cities and
everybody was looking.
Attracted a lot of people and we had a lot of press. Many people came to look, all kind of people. So
there's a cliche about sort of underground art being fizzy and sexy, and establishment art, accepted legal art being less fizzy and less sexy.
I totally agree.
Yeah, but you were just saying. I mean, we were doing the legal stuff.
Well, let's say what can you do if you get shot if you do something illegal?
It's not good.
Maybe it's not good to do it. So if we open some doors with that, and of course. If the people in those countries see that the German embassy and the Goethe Institute support those kind of events, maybe they are more open if next time something illegally happens. And I think in these countries, they if people paint something on the wall, it's they consider it's propaganda and it's danger, and it's definitely necessary to open some doors. And I think we've done a good job in doing that. But I totally agree. Mm-hmm. The more underground, the more sexy it is. Yeah.
Interesting stuff, interesting thoughts. Now, if you at home, you want to get a closer look at Jim's work, then you might want to have a go at winning a book about Jim's street art tour that he was just talking about. That's we've got that down here. And also another thing that he's brought along is this poster book that I'm now going to pick up and hand over to Jim. Let me just show you this. Very colourful, some of the dogs and cats that Jim was talking about, yeah? I'm going to hand that over to Jim and ask him if he can just sort of turn on to page 1. And during the rest of the course of the programme, just do a quick sketch for us on sort of poster page 1. Now, if you want to win either of these, the book or the poster book, or both together perhaps, yeah? All you have to do is send a letter to DW, Talking Germany team at Wolterstrasse 6, in what Jim's already going for his pen down here, by the way. Wolterstrasse 6, the address, 13355 Berlin, Germany. Just as good, of course, send us an email to talkinggermany@dwde. And the only thing you have to bear in mind is please get your mail to us within about 14 days tops. Now, Berlin is a hip city, there's no doubt about that, and it attracts a lot of hip artists, people like Jim Avignon. But the very fact that the city is such a cool place means that tourists are now coming here in droves. 10 million visitors a year, they say. And not all the hip Berliners are happy.
The tourists are coming. Whether shouldering backpacks or towing trolley luggage, they're seeking the mystique disseminated by the world's travel guidebooks. The Berlin district that was once the refuge for countless squatters and alternative lifestyles has become a brand name. The slogan of this kebab stand is the taste of Kreuzberg, and people are travelling a long way to sample it.
Poland, Korea,
China, Turkey, Japan,
England,
Bulgarian.
I'm from Germany, Slovakia.
Next door, a house is being converted into a hostel. It's part of a trend sweeping the area. Affordable housing has all but evaporated and rents are soaring. Kreuzberg's old guard is manning the barricades. Yesterday's radicals have found a new foe. Their current battle cry is, "Party tourists, go home." Klaus Teuerkauf has been running an art gallery on Oranienstrasse since the early 1980s.
The old Kreuzberg residents are moving out because of the urine on their front doors, the broken glass and vomit everywhere, and the racket out there. I've taken to throwing eggs out of my window.
There was partying in the old days too, but there was also politics and solidarity. Like over squatted houses, says Klaus. He says all that matters today is money. One hotspot, the Admiral Bridge, might yet be stricken from the guidebooks. Residents are up in arms over the noise. The police enforce quiet after 10 p.m.
20 years ago, no one cared that all the punks came here to drink outside.
Berlin hates you. Is this how a cosmopolitan city should greet its guests? Some say it's the wrong approach, but others say something needs to change so that tourists and residents can coexist in peace.
Well, we found that a very interesting report, and as you can see, while that's been going on, Jim has already been working away at this work of art down here. It looks great. Jim, I'm going to have to ask you to break off just a tiny wee little bit, or at least speak up while you're drawing away. That report is about something that is a very, very, very hot topic in Berlin, tourism. I think there's no doubt whatsoever that it is changing the face of Berlin. Is it changing Berlin for the better or for the worse?
I think you can't tell right now.
Yeah.
It's gonna change, that's for sure. And it would have been naive to think it would have always stay like it was in the last 20 years. I've been living in New York for the last 7 years, most of the time, and I think a lot of stuff that's happening right now in Berlin for people in New York is a totally common thing. The neighborhood is changing. People decide they want to live somewhere else, so they move to another neighborhood. There's no idea of protecting your neighborhood like a castle, or like hanging poster and saying tourists are not welcome anymore. I think this is really a stupid thing. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I'm living in Kreuzberg myself. Every night when I want to go home, there's a bunch of people sitting in my entry drinking wine and having a good time, which is they're all friendly, but kind of I can understand that you're not super excited, especially if you have a hostel or a club in your backyard or in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, I think the city, the government has to start inventing some good ideas how to deal with it. I remember that in Madrid a couple of years ago, the government stopped public drinking on certain places after midnight, and maybe there's some places in Berlin they should consider that as well. Mm. Because right now a lot of tourists, they don't even have a hotel. They come for 2 days. They go out, and the rest of the time they sit outside and drink, and which annoys a lot of people, I think. But in general, I personally find it very positive that I hear a lot of different languages in the subway, on the street. It gives me the feeling I always felt that Berlin is not a really a metropolitan city like London or Paris or New York. And now with all these people from everywhere living here, you see all kind of faces in the subway, gives me more a feeling Berlin arrived somewhere. Yeah, just people have to deal with it now.
A world city, yeah. But let's be honest, as far as I understand it, back in 2006, when you left Berlin to go and live in New York, you were running away from what was happening at the time.
Well, I was running away from Berlin getting instrumentalized, is that the word?
Absolutely.
By big companies as a main place for creativity. And I remember I was with the Goethe Institute in Singapore when the first Popcom happened in Berlin, and I got all those mails from big record companies celebrating Berlin as the burning place of creativity and underground. And I felt I didn't do that for 15 years just for you to now like celebrate that. So I wanted to spoil it. I did an album with the line Berlin town is going down, which is a bit stupid, but I got like I got very offensive reactions to that. People say like, if you don't like it here, why don't you leave? So it was kind of like a no choice situation. Like I wanted to leave, but also like people forced me to leave if I don't like it here. I was kind of, in their opinion, I was kind of blaming Berlin for getting boring and bad, which it was at that time.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because Berlin's getting a new international airport, which it doesn't have thus far.
Which so far didn't happen.
It hasn't happened yet. There's been a lot of hitches along the way. And the mayor of Berlin is saying, I mean, we get 10 million visitors each year at the moment. The mayor of Berlin is saying he'd like to see that doubled to 20 million.
Well, like...
You'll take it as it comes.
He can open a hostel in the house where he's living. So probably he don't want to see them in his street. But like coming, as I said, in New York, they can deal a big amount of tourists every year somehow. And I think at some point, like a lot of people find out ways how they make their deal with that situation.
They move away. I mean, everybody, people were in downtown, they were in Manhattan, they went to Brooklyn, they're going to go somewhere else now.
Berlin is still big enough and has a lot of areas where you can go with and not see any tourists at all for a month. Yeah. So I don't know, like you can't stop that process. Nope. And I think things have to change, and they will do. Yeah.
Okay, we're with you all the way on that one. Berlin is going through changing times. And when we talk about changing times, let's talk about men. Yes, men. Men like Jim, perhaps, because there's a new trend here in Germany where a growing number of men are taking more time off work to spend that time with their kids. And more men are also taking advantage of a government scheme that allows women and men to take paid parental leave around the birth of a child.
Jens Hausburg from Weimar has dived into fatherhood head first. He's a photographer and taken 10 months parental leave to care for his son. Wolfram Burt runs a cafe in Erfurt. His wife Karina is 8 months pregnant and can no longer help out. Wolfram isn't sure how he'll manage once the baby is here. Back at Jens's home, his wife is getting ready to leave for work.
We used to share all the household tasks before, and this is no different.
Jens enjoys the time he's getting to spend with his son. Today, about a quarter of new fathers in Germany take parental leave, at least for a while.
Before, my life was all about contacts, appointments, preparation, follow-up, production. It's a lot of responsibility, and mistakes really cost you. But now I have a different schedule. When's he going to be hungry again? When I'm in town and he gets hungry, I have to find a place to warm the bottle. And do I have a diaper along? It's just a very different set of questions.
Karina and Wolfram are taking an antenatal class. The countdown is underway. In 4 weeks, Wolfram will be a father. Nowadays, the men's presence is more or less obligatory.
Back in the post-war generation, I seriously doubt that you would have found any men attending a prenatal course.
Jens says the decision to take time out from his career to care for Max has changed him. His friend Hendrik has noticed the difference too.
He's much more domesticated these days. He has different priorities. And there's all the baby talk and the coochie-coo. He's put his heart into being a father, and that's changed him.
For women, their first baby changes everything. But it does for men too. The soon-to-be fathers here are on the cusp of what may be their greatest adventure.
Well, before we talk about the great adventure, before we talk about men, women and babies, let's talk about our speedy artist and the drawing he's just done. He finished it in quick time. That's got something to do with the last report that we were looking at.
That's a moving house. Yeah. So my message to all people who are not happy with the area they live, maybe you find another area in your city. And like I've seen that in New York all the time, that people just hop from one area to the next.
So are you going to be leaving Kreuzberg quite soon? It's a possibility, yeah?
It can be possible.
And which is the next trendy district in Berlin, Jim? Please tell me and I'll get there before you do.
I don't want to know.
Perhaps Wedding, where we are today. Yeah, it's talked about very often, yeah?
Well, like, who would have thought that Neukölln, that corner of Neukölln would be trendy? I've been living in Donaustrasse in the 80s.
A rundown district, if
it
ever
was
there
run
was
down
one.
for 20 years and suddenly, out of nothing,
boom.
Yeah, so this could happen anywhere.
Okay, let's get back to that other subject. Men, babies, young children. Yeah?
Yes.
Are you a modern father?
I have no idea. Like, I'm a father as best as I can, but like, let's say it like this: I'm not doing a job where I have to leave the house. Like, I work at home. I don't even have a studio. So I wanted to have a kid, and I'm happy to have a kid, and I kind of enjoy all the trouble it brings, sleepless nights, like not being able to work for more than an hour when the kid is doing the afternoon nap. I had fun for 25 years, and I really went to a lot of parties, and I think I can really take a couple of years where I don't do that so much and
spend a little bit more time at home.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of our viewers will be. I mean, and this is relevant to what you're saying. You're saying you're not a 9-to-5 dad who goes out and comes home and puts on his slippers in the evening. But how do you make ends meet? How do you make the sort of the commercial thing and the sort of the giveaway, the cheap art aspect of what you're doing work? How does that balance?
Well, like you have to. You have to find out ways how to deal with the new situation. Like, but that's what I always enjoyed in my work. Like, I think kind of can enjoy chaos, and with having a kid brought a big amount of new chaos to my life, and I kind of enjoyed finding strategies how to deal with it, trying out things, and like it's also good to learn that. Before I had a kid, like you think everything you do is so important, like, and then you have a kid and you figure out who cares if I do the flyer or not. Like, it's it just changes your view on everything. So that's okay with me.
And I asked you earlier if you had a playful childhood, and your answer was extremely interesting. And now, and I mean, you're an to say the least, yeah. And you now, in many ways, an ideal father for a youngster because what you do, especially as regards the sort of the drawing and the painting, you can be very, very, very playful with a youngster.
Yeah, I hope so. Like, I don't. I kind of understand now, like seeing all kind of families, that if you don't have problems with your kid, at some point something's wrong as well. So I don't know. Like we're having a good time, and I think most of the time we're having a good time. But I don't want to have the perfect kid, and for sure my kid is not a perfect kid. She's very funny and chaotic, but I don't know.
I'm always fascinated by people who have what you've got, which is what the Germans call a Künstlername, a sort of a stage name, a pseudonym, And in your case, I mean, I'm calling you Jim all the time because that's what you are. You're Jim Avignon, Do you have another sort of personality with your other name? And your daughter doesn't call you Jim?
My daughter calls me Jim, right? Like, she calls me Daddy, but she knows that I'm Jim, and if she wants to make the joke, she calls me Jim sometimes. Yeah.
Fascinating. I think I might get myself a pseudonym.
Like you can do it, and I kind of recommend it. When I was 20, I really didn't like what I am and what I'm doing. So when I changed my name, it gave me the possibility to be somebody else. And
you reinvented yourself. Yeah. Let's have a quick go at the Talking Germany quiz at the end. Brooklyn or Kreuzberg, which is cooler?
Both needs a lot of work to really have a cool life there.
Would you rather be middle class or poor?
Poor.
Is tourism a blessing or a curse?
More a curse than a blessing.
Who's changed more nappies, you or your partner?
Me.
Woo! The speedy nappy changer, the speedy artist, the fizzy musician. He's been a great guest, Jim Avignon. If you've enjoyed his company as much as I have, come back next week. Check out my blog, by the way, on the Talking Germany website for more. Bye bye. Cheers.